Good morning. Welcome to Coffee and the Word this morning. How you guys doing? It's another bright, beautiful day. It's supposed to be really hot here, but a beautiful day nonetheless. And we got a little cloud cover yesterday, kept it a little cooler here. We would like to have some rain out of the clouds, but God will supply what we need when we need it. So confident of that. Excuse me. Still coughing this morning. Don't know what's going on, and it has nothing to do with the computer. Finally figured out, ruled out the allergy to the computer. It's something else. Mandy, back at work today. Had my good dark roast coffee this morning that I'm dealing with. So we're ready to go. We're in the Psalm 27. Yesterday we looked at Psalm 26 and David's commitment to integrity. And now today we hear this psalm of praise and the song of crying out to God for his help and his guidance. Great psalm, Psalm 27, we're going to look at today. Let's get into this. Psalm 27. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the defense of my life. Whom shall I dread? When evildoers came upon me to devour my flesh, my adversaries and my enemies, they stumbled and fell. Though a host encamp against me, my heart will not fear. Though war rise against me, in spite of this, I shall be confident. One thing I have asked from the Lord that I shall seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to behold the beauty of the Lord, and to meditate in his temple. For in the day of trouble he will conceal me in his tabernacle. In the secret place of his tent he will hide me. He will lift me up on a rock, and now my head will be lifted up above my enemies around me. And I will offer in his tent sacrifices with shouts of joy. I will sing, yes, I will sing praises to the Lord. Excuse me. Sorry about that. I'm trying to get rid of this stuff. Verse 7, Hear, O Lord, when I cry with my voice, and be gracious to me and answer me. When you said, Seek my face, my heart said to you, Your face, O Lord, I shall seek. Do not hide your face from me. Do not turn your servant away in anger. You have been my help. Do not abandon me nor forsake me, O God of my salvation. For my father and my mother have forsaken me, but the Lord will take me up. Teach me your way, O Lord, and lead me in a level path because of my foes. Do not deliver me over to the desire of my adversaries, for false witnesses have risen against me, and such as breathe out violence. I would have despaired unless I had believed that I would see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Wait for the Lord. Be strong and let your heart take courage. Yes, wait for the Lord. Great psalm of encouragement this morning for us. That so many points we can look at. David again starts out with this recognition of who God is and who he is in his life. And we need to, again, make sure that we do that in our daily conversations with God, that we recognize God for Creator, God for Savior, God as source of light, source of life. And we recognize that in our life, that everything that is good in our life is of God, that he's given that to us. We are nothing without him. David recognizes that, gives that to God, lifts that up to God, calls God his defense of his life. We need to remember that when people bring us different jabs, and sometimes they send us anonymous criticisms and little jabs of our life, we need to know that God is on our side, and we're serving him and his people. Excuse me. And as adversaries seem to pile against us, he's the one who can pull us up out of that. In spite of all that, David said in verse 3, in spite of all these enemies around me who throw their flaming arrows, I can find confidence in my God. Verse 4 is a great verse used in songs. Again, the Psalm of David is a song to be sung, and so many times the songwriters throughout the years have pulled words from the Psalms of David to use. This is one of the common phrases that's been pulled out. One thing I've asked for the Lord, and I shall seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, and behold the beauty of the Lord, and to meditate in his temple. David's saying and asking of God that, what I really want out of this life is to be in that life with you, to be in your presence, to be in the temple, to be completely surrounded by you, and to no longer face troubles and trials. Excuse me. And David talks about God taking him into the tabernacle and hiding him in a secret place of his tent, and then lifting him up on a rock so that he can see above all of his enemies and see that God has him in a safe place. And he can look down upon all of his enemies and see the safeness that God has brought into his life. God promises that to all of us, that there'll be a day when we'll realize that we're lifted above all the trials and enemies of this life. Jesus promises in the teaching that he gives John in Revelation that we'll be in a place where there'll be no more tears, no more pain, no more sorrow, and that all those who cause such things will be excluded from the presence of God there. They'll not be there. There'll be no troublemakers. Isn't that great? There'll be nobody talking behind your back and throwing little barbs at you. None of that stuff will be there. There'll be no death. There'll be no illness. None of the things that we can normally consider things that cause us stress here. Also, of course, there'll be none of the daily stress of working your job and going to your job and wondering whether you need to change jobs to make more money to support your family and all that stress. And God will supply everything as Jesus has prepared a table for us to set with him. And God will supply all of our needs. We won't even have to turn on a lamp, as the very glory of God will light everything for us. And we have that to look forward to, that day when he will lift us up. And this is what David's talking about, that he's recognizing that hope that he has in God, that God will lift him up if he continues to be faithful to God himself and to serve him. Verse 7 is a cry to God to hear my voice, but it's also a recognition that God does hear my voice. And then there's a discussion about seeking God's face, that we want to seek God in our life, that one of the biggest mistakes we make as humans is not to seek God. And so Jesus came to earth to seek us. And from that point on, we need to realize that we need to seek God. He's found us, forgiven us, saved us. We need to be seeking the things that are pleasing to him and seeking his face. And David makes this promise to him that he will, very similar to the discussions we had yesterday in Psalm 26 of God declaring his integrity and his intentions to walk in integrity towards God. Excuse me. Again, in verse 9, David cries out to the God of my salvation. Again, a recognition of God, who God is, what he's done in my life, that God didn't leave me abandoned and alone, sinful, in the dark. God came to me, found me, showed me his plan of salvation, and is in fact my salvation. Verse 10, a stark reminder that the things of this world will at some point forsake us. Not intentionally, not necessarily intentionally, but we know that this life we will disappoint others, and that disappointment may be simply in our passing from this life. David says in verse 10, "For my father and my mother have forsaken me, but the Lord will take me up." I really feel like he's probably taught. There's no discussion in here anywhere that David was from a bad, dysfunctional family. We seem to see from reading about David that his father cared about and loved his sons. When his older sons were off at battle, he sent David to check on them, care for them. There's no discussion anywhere that this is some kind of dysfunctional family that he's talking about that disappointed him in some way. But this is the point of his life where his father and his mother have probably passed. And thus they're not there for him to go to and lean on like he had been able to in the past. And that faces all of us at some point in life. And this has hit my family right now, as my cousins Hal and Phil face this as their mother and father and their older brother have gone. But God will not forsake them. God does not forsake us. And God has taken our loved ones from this life, promises